a model which has shown to be extremely complex and important, efficient. So we will have, this care. So we can have this conjunction of researchers of different parts. And today I can say different parts of the planet working with a very specific focus, which is the development of the region, but also joining preservation of the forest and development to have the quality of life that the population of the forest deserves. As for a while, we discussed a lot of the forest without taking into account the people. I think today we have reached an apex of COP30 as we had a definitive recognition that people in the region are important. More do respect recognition of the populations that are ancestral, populations who are traditional of the region, but also populations of the cities, as they have important impact on the forest means of life, and the majority of the population lives in the region, in the cities, and they need to be looked at and the impact. Amazônia+10 has this fantastic umbrella with different areas of knowledge, different researchers that are looking at this challenge, which is sustainable development that's really sustainable in the region with different lenses. So today we're going to do the 3 report. I will invite Rafael and João to come up front and present. And then we'll have participation of other important actors over the process, which has been a very hands-on project. That's the complexity as well as the beauty of it. As you can have in this diversity a solution that's more appropriate, like a consensus for what we need. With no further ado, João, Rafael, please come here. Present the numbers of Amazônia+10 in the past 3 years. Thank you. Wonderful. Right, Marcel, thank you so much for the introduction. Marcel is the president of FAPESP, one of the members of our executive committee at the Amazônia+10 initiative, right next to Professor Marcel Bernales, who is a CEO of the Amazon Foundation to Support Research, and then the Executive Secretariat, where Joanne and I are located. And we're seeing the FAPESP São Paulo, a theme which Davidson, who is a scientific director at FAPESP. The Secretariat and Adinaldo Lima, the scientific director of Apeani, agent that's spilling the operational side and discussion. So we're really happy to be in this space. Space in the state of Pará, in the Museum Emílio Goeldi, where we have all this excellent research, and the guests that we have here. Professor Lemalin from the house, BID space where we have the LSO of Amazon Forever, a very important partner, as you'll see here in the presentation. So it's quite an important moment for us to gather the different people helping making the initiative what's today. What we're going to present you is a small balance of what we have made over the past 3 years as the initiative began in the year 2022. The presentation is a little segmented in 3 parts. The first one in introduction of the numbers, and then João is going to show the extensive monitoring we've made, with the projects we fund, some other numbers. Our sense is what the initiative presents today. We also have cases here to present, so many cases. And we are going to select 4 to show you in more detail. Without further ado, for those who are still not familiar with the initiative, it's essentially an alliance of state foundations that support research, working to coordinate and amplify financial science, technology, and innovation in the legal limit zone. Its mission is broad, supporting transition. towards a fair, sustainable economic model in the Amazon through science, technology, and innovation. As Marcel said so well, this represents working indeed on the ground, landing in territories, cities, institutions of research, and what else? It's not like an aerial view on the top, but it's one that's actually operating here, inside. We are now 25 members of state foundations that support research. Out of the 27, there are. We started with 10, 9 in the legal Amazon, plus the state of São Paulo. So we were able to demonstrate this is an important thing for the whole country. In other states managers, we have 16 external partners between international agencies and embassies, multilateral bodies, third sector, and 61 projects funded, plus 25 workshops, almost short-term mobilities with international partners. These projects involve almost 2,000 researchers over 1950 in the projects and 3 calls and launches that I will mention, the 3 calls later more specifically, and 3 other calls of partners, and we mobilized a total of 162 million reals in the meantime. So that's our list of facts headed by CONFAP, the Council of State Foundations that Support Research, CONFAP, which is our mother institution where we are anchored. And here are our partners we have. I want to reinforce the role of IDB in the list as all the effort made that we can demonstrate the mapping reading is due to the work of a team hired through an ACP with a bank. TCA, we have the bank, Ellen Fred, they are members of the consultants, in total 12, in the 9 legal Amazon states, which helped us not only in mapping many other aspects, but also in the future things to do, as Marcelo is going to mention before we finish the presentation. The University of Guyana is an external partner, and they can participate of projects and finance directly the researchers. So they eventually operate almost like a FAP, as Guyana doesn't have a FAP, but the university coordinates all the whole CTI system, and we have a partnership that I'm going to mention later. Besides the international cooperation, we have partners who are important, and that I mentioned the workshops. Nadeja from the embassy, now CFDBA. We had an interesting program at the University of Guyana with trilateral workshops between Amazon-based researchers and in French Guiana and in France. 5 workshops funded. Professor V was in one of them, and with the British Council. We've had 20 other workshops that were launched in the same partnership, where we have sent 10 fellows here, young researchers in the region, that will go through research internship in the UK. And we have other dialogues, scientific ones that we've made both in Belém as well as Manaus. First in SFC in China. I have given fruits of this Chinese partnership with the results in our Council of Ministers. 2 weeks ago, we brought 25 researchers from Sweden, Norway, and Finland to propose the policy brief with which there was discussion about research in partnership with regional peoples. Patrick from the Embassy of Norway was important. Thank you, Patrick, for coming. There is translation available if you need. He understands Portuguese now. This raising information is for larger projects, 3 or 4 years, where we started the first call in 22, mobilizing 54 million reais A huge effort from the FAPES CNPq, which entered as a partner in a later after the coordinated effort was made from CONFAP. With the help of Marcel and Marcia, we funded 39 projects. Over 1,200 researchers are part of this call, and we have in addition to scientific expeditions, a larger call, 95 million reals mobilized. With an expressive participation of CNPq within the call, around a third of the mobilized amount from CNPq, a third of the state foundations that support research, and a third of international partners. Highlighting UKRI, US and SF from Switzerland, which also added in the amounts to allow interesting partnerships in the context. 22 projects and 95 million rounds mobilized. What João is going to present, as I said, is a fruit of our attempt to understand the real scale of the project developments for it to be a fragment, we're coherent, we're coalition. The information that's official are often fragmented as there are many different agencies funding the project. So we made an effort to coordinate and understand what the projects are doing as units. It was successful. The process has interesting things to show, and João will tell you a lot about not the plan, but about that in general. Good afternoon. It's worth highlighting the monitoring. Amazônia+10 initiative came with this clear purpose of being a large program, a set of programs that foment science and innovation focused on impact and generating change in people's lives below the trees canopy. This happens in two ways. The projects are going to involve academy to change public policy in the territories or companies or you see. We also imagine this network of researchers to really work as a network, to really create articulation between researchers in different networks that are paths of projects so they can together raise the voices of project results ahead. So we should understand what the projects mean and their dimension. They're complex in some cases. We have networks with 8 different institutions or 10 as in a project with a large set of researchers. And due to the administrative fragmentation, Rafael said, mainly data collection, we were lacking a clear vision. Many of you here received the forms we sent. You will see why they mattered. To have a view that's broad on what projects we're doing, highlighting how we produce the interactive dashboard with the results of the mapping that will be available soon. But we wanted to bring this version with the highlights so you can see static. Jean mentioned these large projects in networks within international institutions. It's fundamental that they were coordinated by institutions, ICTs, and universities from the Amazon, which is a condition for the project to happen. So all you see was organized based on researchers. And the only important factor to mention is the role the resident team program had, as we allocated one IDB consultant in each research foundation in the Amazon states. From the initial idea, we led the process together, but they had an enormous role in indicator, data, thinking. And it's worth mentioning how we began with a questionnaire with almost 2,000 researchers we have mapped. They are sending proposals and 1,265 answered. So this is less than the total population, but it represents well the number. coming from 171 institutions. Surprising data, which is positive, is that 80% are from science and technology and 20% are other institutions. Could be community-based, territorial organizations, public sector, NGOs, cooperatives and companies doing projects here. All the people who participate in the project are researchers, either volunteers, fellows, postdocs, so on. There are researchers who are connected to the institutions in 7 different countries that are part of this initiative. 7 countries, 27 states. They are not all part of the initiative, though, only 25. But all of Brazil is in the project, plus USA, UK, Switzerland, Australia. It's worth mentioning how the larger concentrations are in Pará, Amazonas, São Paulo. An interesting point is the distribution of scholarships. Scientific initiation in the projects. Evidently, there are more people participating in the projects or people who had a master's or PhD aid in copies, but they are in the projects. And the most surprising number is 119 postdoc fellows, as it's a different indicator, as this is usually an interesting mechanism to have researchers fixed, which is going in the right direction. Researchers in the region and themes of interest. Looking at their profile, the majority are women. 50% are white. 40% are brown. 8% are black. People indigenous yellow or non-declaring. Interesting data here. Once again, 8% are people who consider themselves from traditional communities and peoples. So we believe there is under notification here. Many researchers in the groups are in the territories and identify as belonging to the peoples, but the form didn't reach the territories, and it wasn't the best instrument to begin with. How can we better capture data in the next round? Important data. Researchers in general, women, black, brown, indigenous were looked at, which is higher when we look at the people who get the scholarships, as they are an indicator also of the future generation of researchers will have, professors, researchers. It shows an opportunity in the diversity in the future generations. An interesting point is looking at the origin of researchers. People come from 23 countries. 43% are from the Amazon. Usually people from Belém or Manaus. We like the map as it shows the locations we research, and it's also a heat map showing the intensity of projects under development in their town, land, or territory. This map has one thing that makes us happy. It shows that diversity in the territory is huge. Amazon is huge, and we have developed research in many territories, but one specifically seems interesting. The call for scientific expeditions made in 23. We were launching it together with the Annex, paper developed by a consortium of Brazilian bridge researchers about vacuum and scientific research in the Amazon. It's hard to have comprehensive research. And it's far from the urban centers and rivers when you have the majority of the data collection. It's hard to get to the regions in indigenous lands, effluvium, and almost empty region was ahead of the dog in the Rio Negro, in the north of the Amazon. It's an indicator that seems nice. Another point that we would like to highlight 80% of our projects involve an actor that's non-academic in the project. The participants are information exchangers and movement. Alright, 1,700 people are now from university research centers in the project, training, capacity building, or participating as volunteers. 39 of the C1 projects here are with communities, 30 with governmental bodies, 26 with associations or cooperatives, 19 with civil society, 10 with companies. The data is a little complementary to what we saw in the map of researcher concentration, looking by institution where they're located. Of 10 institutions with more researchers, the initiative 6 are in the legal Amazon, which is an important indicator for us as from the beginning. The logic of the initiative is Amazon affecting all over Brazil. And this attracts interest. And this is led by researchers here in the legal Amazon. Each resources that we capture is in the legal Amazon. Yeah, also researchers here. This is in the legal Amazon has 3 different states. And this is not even so concentrated in Amazonas and Pará, and also Acre and Maranhão. And this is in the list of quantity of researchers involved in institutions. That is cool. And this is cool in the interactive form. This is about the way these networks are structured. So each of these centers concentrates different lines, which shows the density of these networks forming. The more intense the bond, the more bonds the researchers have in the states. So we have all these frequent connections in the Amazon, in São Paulo, Pará, Amazonas, and some we didn't expect, like Acre, São Paulo, Pará, e Paraná. 365 academic and technology products were raised. So there, science paper, 9 citations in the master's, PhD. And this surprises us because the time is short, 3 years now, two patents developed. The results were quite interesting.
Demonstração de alguns dos tipos de resultados que já foram gerados.
This is just a show of the different results. Since Professor Fernanda's research, which was a highlight at Folha, another group that discovered a 3 million year old giant turtle in the state of Acre, and then a documentary that was produced by the only project we have on political sciences, studying geopolitics and polycentric governance of legal Amazonia. A documentary was produced, and so we were granted an award, largest award of social sciences we have had in Brazil. There are 4 books. 2 of them have been so. This has been something that has generated a concrete impact in terms of public policies. These are some examples of projects that, in our understanding, they represent that diversity of different themes and approaches that we have here. We are not going to go into too many details, especially due to we are not qualified to present the details of these projects, but we just wanted to bring to you a couple of things to show you our diversity. This is a case of a project with the INPA, UFPA, and USP researchers. For example, this is an indigenous group of independent territorial monitoring group that started with the Uja Juruna groups monitoring environmental impact at Belo Monte power plants and the flow of fish and water. So they joined the researchers and built this project that involved riverine communities, other communities of the region to understand the effects of Belo Monte. And this project has been interesting with very concrete results. Since 2019, this group had already had the attention of the prosecutor's office to show the very complex effects that that the project would produce, like outflow and all these things. So this is a situation of Belo Monte. It's important because the main thing, to the extent we know, this is the only independent monitoring project to show. He's talking about 2019, but 2 or 3 weeks ago, IBAMA made a decision based on this kind of effort. This is a kind of impact in the public policy. It's a reference to the research project that was developed here in a document, whatever it is, say an ordinance decision, so on. Another interesting result, another project is called Biore Amazonia. This is to develop biorefineries in the essential oils chain and of Amazon fruits. There are researchers coming from different regions of the country, and this is a project that produced the first patent of that initiative. Would you go back to that one? Let me just reinforce the words of Professor Luisa Helena. That's the first patent that was produced, a project in partnership with the company, but it's important what she says. She's talking about ultra sophisticated processes in our society, but when you do research with those who have been living in the territory for a long time, we have that understanding that maybe they do not look at the needs or related to the local context and so on. This is a kind of project which is very important in terms of innovation and technology. In the field of healthcare, we have an interesting case, a Pampa network, consisting of researchers of several locations. They mapped the effects of the expansion of BR 319, which is a highway, in terms of the circulation of viruses. Oropuchi virus, which is circulating very quickly because of deforestation, as a consequence of the expansion of infrastructure works. This is linked to other actions like capacity building, extension work done along with the communities, also identifying a new strain of the virus, which is concerning, right? And finally, we would like to bring to you this project, which a scientific project involving 6 different institutions in Brazil, Switzerland, and also of the UK. It is a project that has cost more than 10 million reals, and this is a demonstration of the kind of science and innovation that we intend to implement. It is implemented by Quilombola communities that are part of the project, but the best of technology to monitor diversity and biodiversity in the region. This is coordinated along with the Quilombola communities that are part of that. Well, we wanted to bring a couple of examples. We will have some partners and guests for the initiative, like Professor Luisa Helena. She will speak about the project that she coordinates. This is what we would like to bring the findings of that. There were lots and lots of other data. She will speak about her project. But that gives us an idea of representativeness. In other words, we have this model of fair and sustainable economic development, but we have many ways we may go through in order to get there, going from paleontology, bioeconomy, and so on. It goes through all different fields until it shows a potpourri of everything we do. But now I would like to call back to the panel, Marcel. Marcel, can you come back and invite Professor Helena Lima of Goeldi Museum, Helena Scioli of the IDB, with Amazonia Forever, and I believe Marcel will be able to speak a little bit about what we expect for next year for our next project, and then we will be here for any questions that you might have, questions, remarks, because in some way there are many people here who got involved in that kind of initiative who would like to hear some of your perceptions and reports. Thank you. Those of you who haven't had never heard Rafael, the slides, we had to cut because they had 533 slides to be shown in 15 minutes. It would be impossible. So they reduced to only 200, which was not enough. So let's say, let's reduce any further. Of course, I was just kidding, but it is clear that there are many good quality things being done, being produced. And one of the greatest problems that we have in science, in Brazilian science, still is communication, is still dissemination. So moments like these are important. But I'm sure that in this room, none of you, there is no single person in this room that is not in love with science, or someone who does not believe in science, or who does not have the same profile as the three of us here in the room, in the front. This is a very good event so that we can be on the same page. But I would like to invite each one of you so that you can put this message forward, convey this message to those who are not in this room. Those are individuals we need to reach. I attended a session at Goeldi Museum in the House of Science, where there was a person who is an expert in communication, and she discussed many points like this, and I will not be repeating her lecture, of course I will not, but she was very clear regarding the need for us to have for us to be more connected to the networks and use the appropriate tools, and not get happy just with this kind of moment in which we talk to people who understand that need and who are here to share information. We need to take all this to those who do not consume this kind of information. So I would like to especially thank the IDB. I will say it again because we lack possibilities to collect all those things that we have just heard, especially when we have so many different projects, and as we have reached such a broad, wide region of the Amazon, we need labor, we need skilled individuals and qualified persons to bring this kind of information that we have just shown, because it facilitates communication. But I will pass the microphone over to you, then I'll get back to the end, or by the end, before speaking about the next steps. Who would like to start? Good afternoon. Let me first start by thanking for the invitation, and let me tell you that I'm very proud to be in this panel. I was born in Pará, and I studied here as well at Goeldi Museum. I took my master's degree here at Goeldi Museum. So this is a very special reason for me to be wearing this shirt and taking part of an organization that is funding so many important initiatives for the Amazon region. In the IDB, I work as an Amazonia expert in the Amazonia Coordination Unit. The IDB, by means of the Amazonia Forever program, its action is coordinated based on 5 pillars. One of those is bioeconomy. And when we talk about bioeconomy in Brazil, and I believe that everybody is now hearing about bioeconomy everywhere, all of a sudden that has become buzzword. Because last year we hosted the G20 meeting in Brazil, and for the first time there was a talk about bioeconomy. But the bioeconomy we're talking about at the level of the whole country, Brazil, is a kind of bioeconomy that we speak abroad, for example, which is planted forest, biodiesel, and bioenergy. When we talk about bioeconomy for the Amazon, we are talking also about social bioeconomy. We are talking about an economy that is very much related to the production arrangement of the traditional peoples, indigenous peoples, and also the way they live. What's different in that? And now, the point is now that we are looking at that from a marketing kind of approach, or market-wise approach. And this market-wise approach, it cannot disregard the uniquenesses and the diversity that we have available here. And we have to look at that from a specific bias, taking into account all this scenario to try to define what bioeconomy do we want. And the question is, what do we have in the Amazon for us to contribute to this differentiated kind of position that enables also protagonism on the part of those who are in the territory as well, be them the universities, research centers, be them those who are collecting those inputs. And how do we make that connection between the south and the north of Brazil? Then I grew up in a riverine community, and we could talk about technology, innovation, etc., from several perspectives. But how are we going to tell this? I believe we usually had the fish that we put up to dry out because there was no energy. This is some wisdom. This is knowledge. I will then have salt placed on the fish to keep it to maintain it. But in order to include all those items is very important. And the work that you have been doing by bringing together all supporting agencies, they are important to play a role on the public policies, and also at the same time it is able to show different ways of doing things. Then now about to finish my, my initial words, it's important to look at the whole framework, the legal framework, and the framework regarding the different financial instruments to see how the economy is being funded. And it's important to look at science and technology, because when we look at science and technology, and if we do not have an industrialization matrix which is appropriate for these businesses or thought for those businesses, that's something that should be done. When the academia joins traditional knowledge, they have a way of rebuilding that history from the local initiatives. I would like to congratulate you for leading this initiative, and the IDB is very happy to be contributing to this purpose. Thank you. Thank you. Indeed, the contribution of IDB to our residents has brought a differential in terms of organizations. Certainly, they will knock on your door asking for more, because all of us here, I'm saying that because I undergo this kind of pressure and I pass it on, because when one starts an initiative like that, there's no way of stepping back, no way of stepping back. So the state of Pará, before the Amazonia+10 initiative, it started back there a process for the establishment of the bioeconomy plan. In the bioeconomy plan, well, I attended a session in the green zone yesterday in the Pará Pavilion. And those of you who are here from Pará, you know that we heard many people, and that hearing process is not perfect. It's hard for you to reach that level of perfection. The purpose was not that. But we did research, and that things have been made differently. So the state of Pará today is in the forefront of that discussion. And this is our responsibility as well, because we have to make that to become capillary and reach the different states and places. I am vice president of CONFAP, and I'm chairman of FAP, where the first bioeconomy plan was established. I was urged to actually take that information to a nationwide committee, but realities are different. So bioeconomy outside of the Amazon is seen in a different way. We did not discuss the concepts, we did not try that because that would be insane, but we established a parameter. So for us, bioeconomy in the state of Pará is bioeconomy based on nature-based products. This is bioeconomy for us. And this is exactly at this point in which within the Amazonia+10, as part of the executive board, also we try to have an impact on the decision-making process this way. Like you, in the position you are today, you understand that. You can also be our spokesperson. So, okay, thank you very much. I will not take any time from you. Okay. Well, good afternoon. Thank you for being here. I'm happy for being here. I'm Elena Lima. I'm archaeologist. I'm not wearing the shirt, but I'm a Goeldi Museum researcher as well. I don't have the shirt. I have been here for 13 years almost, plus 25 years of Amazonia, going through Alpha and so on. I had several slides to present, but João cut my slides. He said, no slides. And so he decided to cut your slides and then decided to cut my slides as well. In any case, I coordinate one of the projects approved in the second call for bids, related to scientific expeditions. Let me tell you less about a project, but more about the project itself. And the process of design of the proposal, this is a proposal that got very good evaluation. It was funded, and now we are completing the first year, but in fact completing the first year of the project with some FAPs in the process of negotiation. Some of the FAPs are being implemented or will be implemented. So this is a somewhat slow first year, right? In any case, I value significantly this call for bids for many reasons, and one of them has to do with the need of coordination of the institutions of the Amazon or northern region of Brazil, and that inevitably that brings protagonism to the hands of researchers, to the Amazon institutions as well, in the scenario at national and the national perspective, and that changes or switches what is usually done based on solutions that come from abroad and brought into the Amazon. Sometimes there's science coming from outside to our region. This changes things completely. How, along the development of the research studies, I see major potential to show that the Amazonian region has excellent institutions like the museum, INPA, the federal universities. They have excellent researchers. This is important to appreciate and show Brazil, and also to show to the whole world. That call for bids required that we had researchers, men and women, coming from traditional communities, indigenous peoples and traditional communities. So I appreciate this very much because it brings, in any case, the importance of research designed along with the other groups since the very beginning, before submission. There's another point. For you to submit a project with, under a partnership of a Quilombola association or indigenous populations, this is not something that can be built in an overnight. This is why I would like to highlight this at the same time as I appreciate this element of the call for bids, because those partnerships, they are built over time. Time is necessary for trust to be built, for us to have an actually collaborative work, so that this is an honest or candid collaboration, and that requires time. Maybe a first filtering of this call for bid has been that one. In the case of the project I coordinate here at Goeldi Museum, we develop research partnering with 3 indigenous territories at Alto Xingu, with the Kuikuru peoples in Mato Grosso. One of the researchers should be here with us on this panel, but he had flight problems and will not be able to come over. But the Kuikuru peoples, Alto Xingu, Cabeça do Cachorro, Dog's Head, that's Gabriel da Cachoeira Municipality, and the Alto do Rio Negro, with the Tucano indigenous peoples, and it is Amazonas and the state of Pará, with the Kayapó indigenous peoples, that we are still in the process of beginning our consultation. We are 1 year into the project, and let me tell you that we have been successful in terms of consultation, also in the terms of the project design. But today, as some peoples of Rio Negro and Coicuro, with those groups, we may design where that research will be implemented. For example, in addition to the existing partnerships previously, due to the scope of this project, we only now understand a bit better the importance of co-designing research, either, well, methodologies or even the needs that are needed to be met in the territories regarding their practical needs. I have seen also a lot of demand for materials for indigenous schools, materials produced in the indigenous languages, and also valuing the indigenous culture, in spite of the fact, well, what I value the most in terms of the process of call for bids, it's not the aspect of researchers coming from outside of a territory in. What I do appreciate is the research done by indigenous scholarship grantees. We had 70 researchers in the beginning out of 20 different institutions. We are 85 now, plus 15 scholarship holders, of which 10 of them are indigenous researchers as well. This makes sure that research will continue and will happen in the territory. So this goes much, much beyond expediting these things. It's important that this process of research, construction, questions asked after answers being expected, this has to be followed up, but be built continuously. I hope this is not finished in only 3 years. 3 years is too little. Although the results brought to us by João, they are quite amazing because that is a young initiative, and we see that it is already producing other impacts. When I answered the questionnaire, I was going towards my first consultation. How good to see that the previous projects have brought already very solid and positive evidence. And finally, the last element I would like to highlight here about what has been requested by this call for bids has to do with the importance of a good and well done communication plan, like Professor Marcel said. Research has to be communicated to different audiences, and especially to the society, so that it makes sense and also for that to be valued. It is necessary that those of us, that we researchers use languages, that we have forms and methodologies and ways to reach the society, to communicate everything that we develop. Once again, it's important to have a call for bid which has been carefully prepared. That also leads to projects that have the potential to be accepted. The voices of the indigenous groups, they are still in their first days, but with a lot of potential to develop as research of impact, either for the state of Pará, not only for Pará, but also to all other communities that are involved in that. Thank you. That's it. Thank you so much. Well, I have a question to ask the audience. I asked them to change the slides and show the question, because when we talk about communication, when we talk about depth and breadth and these things, we need to do our part. Raise your hands. Who is a follower of the Amazônia+10 initiative here in Brazil, here in the room? Some of you don't, right? I have the figures with me here. The Amazônia+10 initiative has 2,126 followers. How many researchers did you include there? 1,900, but I think that the total is 6,500, right? Or so. No, 8,700. We have only 2,126. So it is hard to charge things from people if we do not do things. So each project manager has to ask, are you following Amazônia+10 or not? Because this is how we start having a reach. This is how we will have an impact. This is a game. If we do not play the game, it makes no sense complaining that you have not won the match. You have not even started playing the game. And so we need to go after new possibilities, but we need to criticize and do our homework. This is a very important point. I was thinking about, and so I understand that we do not have those many researchers being part of that process. Now, talking about the future, wrapping up everything that we are putting together here, the challenges are huge. The region here is everything is giant here. When people talked about the Amazon without being in the Amazon, without involving the Amazonian region, people try to look at the Amazonia in a homogenic perspective. So, but the Amazon is a giant area. The challenge we have, those of us, the initiative we have to coordinate an activity like that is try to hit the bull's eye in terms of what we are willing to do. We started with a very general call for bid, trying to not make any mistake there. We started from learning towards a call for bid for expeditions because we saw that there was a void of scientific information because of all the different difficulties that were mentioned here. And let me tell you about the two call for bids. We showed a fantastic number of 54 million in the first call for bid, 95 million in the second one, and a total of 61 projects without talking about the workshops. In the first call for bids, we only managed to fund 39 projects. We had 54 million, but the demand was for more than 150 million. If we had the money, we would need 150 million Brazilian reals to approve good projects. It was hard to select. It was quite laborious. But the second call for bids, things got worse because of void of information, not because of the lack of people or because of the lack of institutions, but because of the lack of money to do those things. The demand, we reached 95 million, but the whole demand was for 400 million reals, almost 500,000 reals. That was 500 million reals, half a billion reals. That was a need of investments to meet the project's needs. In other words, and again, those were good projects that it was not easy to select. And so the partners understood very clearly that there is need of protagonism. There are some pillars of Amazônia+10 we will not set aside. When I joined, because of my experience with Plan Bio, and as I learned a lot during the Plan Bio process, I had to discuss the other chairpersons there, and João repeated a sentence, a phrase. I talked to Pacheco. There's only one condition, that the research is done below the canopy, because however, having said this, we also do basically that. When I say us, I'm talking about the Amazon. This is why I understand the timing issue, etc. But this is a premise that was important to be mentioned, because otherwise we will be saying that it's important to appreciate traditional knowledge, but you do not put in people to work together with us. When I say together, I mean at the same level in terms of being together to take part as a researcher, and not simply as a mere accessory of the research, so that we Amazonian won't do what is called extraction kind of research. No, just collect a leaf and go away. No. We want that research to be done in the territory. This is a necessary kind of decision, but it had to start at some point. But we need to continue to sustain it over the time. And so in this process of continuity, we will certainly launch in the coming year, as we are in the process of negotiation. Don't think everything is standing still. It is not. We have been working a lot for that. Next year, we want to launch a robust program with calls for bids to meet the challenges of the Amazon. And our colleagues that the IDB brought us, our residents are doing an excellent job of mapping so that we can reach production chains of social bioeconomy. Our interest is to bring science, technology, and innovation to social bioeconomy. All of this in line, of course, this is not coincidence, very much in line to what the state governor launched recently for the Amazon River Valley is, of course, what we have been doing here is directly connected to the Vale BioAmazonia. It's important to appreciate those production chains, and we have another study within FAPESPA, which is very, very iconic. We started doing actual studies with partnerships like UFPA, Unicorp, etc., about the figures, the numbers of bioeconomy. So we need reliable data to do that study. We did a fantastic job. For example, in 2021, the volume of funds for bioeconomy in the state of Pará was 3.1 billion Brazilian reals. This is not a neglected value. But when one compares what is in the official receipts and what is not there, so the problem starts emerging. Lack of formality, products do not have their values added. In the case of Brazil nut, I'm sorry for those who are not from here. I cannot call Pará nut or Pará chestnut, but in the case of the Brazil nut, you know how much percent out of the 100% of value generated with that production chain, you know how much percent really stay for the state and for the population here? How much percent? Less than 3% stay here because there's no adding of value, there's no embedded technology in that product. It becomes obeying the appropriate proportions. It becomes a commodity, and a commodity-based state has suffered with the enrichment of the state because most of those funds go abroad. So we need to invest in science, technology, and innovation to strengthen bioeconomy, social bioeconomy. And Amazonia+10 will do that next year. We are working towards that, and we will count on you, on your contribution. We will count on the partnership of the universities and other institutions, not only the institution of the state. We are talking about Amazonia as a whole. We are talking to the whole country, to Brazil as a whole, and to the whole world. We need collaboration, but based on those terms, the terms we have been working since the very beginning. And I'm very happy with your origin because you are already at this time, you're our spokesperson, our spokeswoman. And you will be able to help us even more through the IDB and other partners out there who may bring funds for that. Because we need to change speech into action. President Lula said it very clearly. This COP is a COP of truth. So we need to tell the truth and expect speech to become actions. I'm sure there will be extra time here, but I would like to go back to you for your final words, please. I'd like to congratulate for this integration and remind you that when you do this effort of bringing together, supporting agencies in the Amazon and build together with them, you're able to leverage and provide visibility for the Amazonian region, although, well, we have different Amazonias, plural here, right, with different uniquenesses. The state of Acre is different from Pará, from Amapá, and so on and so forth. And let me congratulate you also for the initiative to bring this perspective of visibility to protagonism and looking at science and innovation from what we have in the territory. So it's important that we tell what innovation is based on the Amazonian narrative. I think we hope to keep moving together. The Amazonia forever will be always guiding the actions of the bank, and let's bring our initiatives together with a network of researchers of the Amazonian region, of which Goeldi Museum is part of as well, especially now that bioeconomy has is now heard throughout the world because of Brazil, because of this challenge of bioeconomy. And let's take advantage of that momentum for us to be able to take off and include other things in the future. Thank you. My final words, again, thanking and let me tell you that we have so many technologies, so much technologies and people out there in the territories. It's those communities, those peoples who are in the territories. These are groups of people who are suffering the most with climate change. So it is necessary to hear more. It is necessary to develop strategies so that initiatives can be supported, initiatives developing in the territories, and not bringing from the capital city to the countryside or to the hinterlands, which also happens. It's important to appreciate the Amazon region, the different Amazonias. They have so many beautiful things, so much science and technology. So the Amazônia+10 initiative, bringing this protagonism and appreciating science of people and communities, we only have to gain with that. Thank you. I would also like to thank that we had 126, now 13 colleagues. Well, we have had already 120 or so followers in this room. But the challenge for you is we need to finish the week with 4,000 followers. So it's more than 8,000 people involved. Each one of you have the obligation to get 200 more followers, each one of you. Thank you very much for your presentation. This session is finished. Thank you.